Okay, in the last 5 or 6 videos we've been exploring the different lamp types in Blender and how to set up lighting. Now what you see here is I've got a scene which is once again just Suzanne, and I've baked a texture and applied the texture, so we're looking in textured view, okay, and you can see the texture is applied. But if we look in our scene, I've only got a camera and Suzanne. I've actually got no lamps. And I did this by lighting the scene with what's called HDRI lighting. HDRI lighting is high dynamic range imaging, and what it does is it uses an image to light the scene. So if I go to Google and I just HDRI, and we call it maps because that's the actual term for the maps that we use, and we can see we can get all these kind of images, and these are spherically mapped. You know, they're kind of like a panorama that's been stitched together. If you were to project this onto the inside of a sphere, it would look kind of perfect from any angle you look around. Now when you're looking at Google, you'll come across some images that aren't spherically mapped, and we need to disregard these. So if we go back to the web and we look for some free HDRI maps, okay, and we'll just go to our image results, and you can see we've got a lot of results to choose from. So we can go to some of these pages and you know, kind of download these free maps and use them. Actually this one's interesting, MrBlueSummers.com. Let's just go to that page. We'll visit that page, and if we come down to where did I do it? Lighting. Was it there I found it? No, it wasn't. Bear with me. Download subcategories, textures, materials. Yeah, here we go. He's got a series of free, very high resolution HDRI maps, and you can actually download a whole pack. And this is actually the maps I'm using in this tutorial. Okay, so let's go back to Blender. So we see we've only got a camera Suzanne. So rather than mess around, I'm just going to create a new scene, and let me delete the cube, and I'm going to add a Suzanne. Okay. Now one thing you might notice here is I'm using actually a release candidate of Blender. Finding the exact candidate number, but anyway, the main difference is I've enabled pie menus on it. It's just because I'm testing it out. It doesn't change anything about your old keyboard shortcuts. What it does do is it adds more options to a pie. For example, if I wanted to change between object and edit mode here, I'd press the tab key and it would change, but now I get this pie menu and I get more options. Okay, same if I was to go between wireframe and solid, I'd press the Z or the Z key. Now I've got a lot more options of the views I can take. Okay, so let's just go back to solid. Right, so let me just position Suzanne. Okay, and move her up there. Right, so I've got Suzanne, I've got a lamp, and I've got a camera. I'm just going to kind of view in here, and I'm going to change my camera view to my viewport view, which is Control-Alt-0. Okay, Suzanne's way too big there, so let's move her. Actually, let's grab the camera and move that back. There we go. Okay, let me grab Suzanne. I'm just going to add a subsurface modifier just to get a bit more geometry there, and I'm going to smooth this out. Let me apply this modifier, and I'm going to smooth her out to get rid of all these faceted faces. Now I could press smooth here. With this new version I can press Z or the Z key, and I can shade smooth. Exactly the same thing. Alright, so let me go into edit mode, and I'm going to quickly do an unwrap on Suzanne. So let me just grab some of these vertices, very basic face unwrap. We'll just come across here. I will press Ctrl E and mark the seam. Okay, so I've got this seam marked on Suzanne. Let me go back into the camera view. Okay, let's open up a image editor and select all and just U for unwrap, and we see we've got this standard kind of face unwrap. Right, so that's Suzanne, and what we're going to do is we're going to delete the lamp in the scene. We don't need the lamp because we're using the HDRI texture, so let me delete that lamp. Okay, now I need to add, for baking anything, I need to add a material to Suzanne, so just add a new material. Standard name will do for now. And I also need to add a new texture to bake onto. So we'll call this the UV unwrap, just to keep names different. Okay, so now if I go to edit Suzanne, I need to make sure that I'm using the texture I just made, just for sake I'm going to assign. Okay, right, so let's go back to object mode. Well, actually we can do this in edit mode. I've got Suzanne, she's unwrapped onto a texture, and I could go and bake a texture or try to. Okay, so I'm baking a full render. You see it's happening very quick there, but she's all black. The reason she's all black is because there's no lights in the scene. Okay, if I was to quickly add a light, need to do this in object mode, sorry, or add a lamp. Let's just add a sun lamp for a bit of global illumination. Move her out the way a bit. Okay, and to bake her again, you see we are getting a bake, but because we've got this sun lamp, we've got this kind of very heavy shadowing because the direction of the shadows is down. And we could add another light down here and then correct with another light down here and do the old process of keep adding lights, but we're not doing that, so let's delete that lamp. Okay, and what I'm going to do is use a HDRI texture. Now there is a certain sequence in which you have to kind of do things here, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to extend this up and change this into a text editor, add a new document. Okay, just so we can write the steps down here as we're going along. Okay, so we've got our scene. The first thing we want to do is select the world. Well, actually, first thing we want to do is delete lamps. Okay, which we've done. We've got no lamps left in our scene. Okay, next we select the world tab. Okay, to select world tab. Okay, now in world tab we'll come down to environment lighting and we enable environment lighting. Enable environment lighting. Okay, from here we can go directly to the texture tab and we can add new texture. Now we need to do this from the world tab. If we done it from the material tab for Suzanne or something, the texture we create will be associated with the material. We want this texture to be associated with the world and the camera. Okay, so we can add a new texture. Mine defaults to image or movie, which is what we want. Okay, I'm just going to place this tab on both so we can see what we're getting, and we'll open the texture. Okay, now earlier I downloaded the textures from Mr. Blue Summers, and I unzipped them to my hard drive, and they are here in Studio HDR. Now you see it comes with a few options: 8-bit low resolution, high resolution, and I'd imagine that's 24-bit low resolution. Okay, now the resolution of the HDRI image will make a difference to your final render, and the bigger the image, the bigger the file size, the longer it takes to bake, and it does actually add quite a bit of time to your baking time. So just for the purposes of this tutorial, and I'd recommend doing this if you've got this option, is use the lowest resolutions to you set up your lighting, get it how you like it, and then when you go to finally bake, change it out with a higher resolution. Okay, so in this image view we've got all these kind of studio setups, so I'm just going to select one at random, say this 21. Okay, so I'll open that image, and you'll see here that the images come halfway on the preview where I've got both selected. It's the texture we're using, the world is shown blank, so if I'm going to show both, you can see it hasn't quite applied yet. Okay, now what we have to do for that is come down to influence, okay, and make sure that we check horizon. Okay, now you can see that it's applied to world and the texture. Okay, so come back to our list here. So number 4 was go directly to texture tab, 5, add HDRI texture, and 6 under influence, enable, help if I could spell, wouldn't it? Horizon. Actually it's not my spelling, it's just I do terrible typos. Okay, so that's us up to date here. Now let's go back into camera view, and I'll do that with my numpad 0. Okay, now if I go into a rendered view here, I can do that from here, or I can press my, because I've got my pie menus enabled in this version, press my Z key and go to rendered. Okay, and what you'll see is the texture that we are using has been projected onto the world behind the model. Okay, if you come out of camera view, you see you lose that. It's I'm not too sure the mechanics of it, but it's all projected inside the camera, so you have to be in camera view to see it. Okay, so we can come out of that and back into solid view. Okay, make sure our Suzanne is selected. Now we've still only got Suzanne and the camera in the scene. Make sure our Suzanne is selected. Okay, and we can come down and we can bake a full render again, and you'll see that she is much better lit. She's more evenly. We've got some low lights and we've got some highlights here, and we've got this even texture. So let's have a look at that as a textured view. Okay, and there you can see we have Suzanne, which is fairly well lit. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, and next we'll have a look at some more options for this.